doesn't matter if I'm a farmer or I'm a car salesman, I can actually affect change.
How do you show people that you can make a difference?
I feel as though you can't help but to be involved.
We need people in public life. I would say more than we need them in business.
Don Mazankowski embodies that spirit of public service and making the decision to, I guess in sporting terms, not be on the sidelines, but be on the field.
It can be fairly said of Don Mazankowski that he dreamt big dreams and he achieved many of them.
I can recall walking up the steps of the Peace Tower for the very first time, looking around in awe, saying to myself, how in the world did I ever get here? I kind of like to use my experience as a demonstration of the fact that you can make a difference.
Don Mazankowski, a man from Vegreville, Alberta, who chose a life in politics, who impressed all, inspired many, a man who made a difference. Yet while his career has taken him around the world and into the highest ranks of political and corporate life, he remains humbly committed to his prairie roots and thankful to be a citizen of a country where anyone can get involved and make a difference. Don was born in Viking, Alberta, and was educated in a one-room country school. His early years on the family farm and his experiences as a young farmer and businessman fueled Don's passion for community life and instilled a keen, common-sense understanding of the world.
Times were difficult on the farm. We always had food, clothing, and shelter, but there was no running water, there was no electricity.
You find a lot of individuals from northern Alberta, especially rural northern Alberta, they have such a strong, honorable work ethic and such a great sense of decency and also a sense of community commitment, because it's by working together that our province really grew. And Don exemplifies those beautiful characteristics.
You've got to accept where you come from and the values attached to where you're coming from. And you have to be real. And what really matters, is the personal qualities, integrity, and a sense of excellence, and honesty.
An emerging local businessman, in 1965, Don Mazankowski met then Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. It sparked a lasting friendship and a dedicated career in politics.
I became somewhat fascinated and attracted to his style, his speaking ability, his ability to deliver a message. And I guess in my own mind, I felt that he and his government helped us in the business world. And I said to myself, if there's some way I could help him, I'd like to do it.
In 1968, the local Conservative MP asked Don to run in the upcoming federal election. He threw his hat in the ring and won a hotly contested race to become the Member of Parliament for Vegreville.
I became involved, not knowing what I was going to do, but I guess much to my surprise, I found that people involved in politics were pretty ordinary people, just like me. And so you develop a kind of a relationship with a group of people that have a common cause.
We were so proud of them, and we were first time involved in the election. We're young, we're full of vim and vinegar. We want to make sure we get our man in.
The first 9 years were spent as an opposition member, where he became an outspoken critic of transportation and dated economic policies that hampered trade in the West. His Western roots, his constituents, were always his first motivation.
I mean, he felt when he came into Parliament they had to speak for Western Canada, Western Canadian views, to people like myself, and which he did. I mean, he helped educate me as a parliamentarian about people in Western Canada think a little differently about some of the issues than you do from Eastern Canada.
I just, learned so much from him, just watching him. But at the end of the day, it was his personal integrity that carried him not only with his fellow colleagues, both within the Conservative Party, but in opposition parties, and also with the media.
In 1979, when his party came to power and he was appointed Minister of Transport, he immediately set to work redrafting the National Transportation Act and instituted a series of initiatives to lessen regulatory burdens on business and create a more market-oriented economy. His gift for thoughtful leadership and consultation led to a number of high-profile cabinet portfolios.
If there was a practical, pragmatic way to deal with an issue, that's what came out of Don's, not only his mouth, but his head. I mean, he was the guy that would be able to put those things together.
When you first get with him, you know that the individual is paying absolute attention to what you're talking about and analyzing it within his mind. And his response to many of your questions or your concerns are always very genuine.
It was always about cutting through the red tape, getting the job done, making sure it worked, making sure the system functioned. Don't let people get lost in the cracks and not getting caught up in the bright lights of power.
In time, Don carried out the role as government house leader, president of the Privy Council, and deputy prime minister. Over time, he was nicknamed the Minister of Everything.
There probably has never been a non-prime minister as powerful in our system of government as Don Mazankowski. Maz was called the Minister of Everything. And if you look at the entire record of that in government, there's virtually nothing that doesn't have the fingerprints of Don Mazankowski all over it.
He always believed that that's what you're there for. You're there to make change and try and make it better. And there are, I would say, the majority of politicians, some who have passed no legislation, and very few, if any, who can come close to that achievement.
In this capacity, Don built a legacy of programs and policies that to this day benefit the country as a whole, including the Farm Income Protection Act, the North American Free Trade Agreement, the Western Diversification Program, which has strengthened and broadened the West's economic base. His time with Joe Clark and Brian Mulroney was a time of nation building, and Don Mazankowski played a central and decisive role.
He knew everything that I knew. As Deputy Prime Minister, I told the officials of the government, you are to share with Mazankowski everything you share with me. I want him to be completely au courant of all the facts. So he was.
Don left politics with a reputation as a fair and respected leader who patiently heard all sides of an issue, thus building consensus and finding workable solutions to problems. After ending a long career in politics, Don didn't slow down, and he continued to be involved and influential.
He didn't stop when he left politics. He just switched gears.
He was able to take all of his government acumen, his political acumen, and parlay that into commerce in a way that allowed people, again, to feel at home and open.
Don sat as director for some of the most established and successful companies in Canada, including Weyerhaeuser, ATCO, and Shaw Communications, one of the top 50 publicly traded companies in the country.
Well, the reason Don Mazankowski was so powerful when he was in government and so widely listened to ever since he left it really has to do with both the strength of his judgment, his ability to listen, his ability to simulate information, and really provide wise but not overbearing counsel.
The guy can be very tough and very rough if he has to. But it's very seldom that I have seen Maz losing his temper or banging the table or getting angry. That was not his way to get results. And the record speaks for itself. He did get results.
In retirement, Don is involved with programs to improve the health and quality of life of Canadians. He was chairman of the Canadian Genetics Diseases Network. He served as chair of the Institute of Health Economics, and he completed an extensive review of Alberta's health system as chair of the Premier's Special Advisory Council on Health. These extensive commitments led to friends and colleagues rallying to name the Mazankowski Alberta Heart Institute in his honor.
Here's Don Mazankowski, a good friend, a board member, Western Canada, a significant leader, and here we're raising money for a heart institute in Edmonton, right close to where he lives. The man just had a heart attack. Who more representative would it be than him to have his name on that building?
Don was named an Officer of the Order of Canada in 2000. He was awarded the Alberta Order of Excellence in 2003. He is one of the few Canadians to be given the title of the Right Honourable without having held an office that would entitle him to it.
You know, the title, the Right Honourable, in politics is reserved for the Prime Minister, and everybody else holds the title of the Honourable, members of the Privy Council. Before I left office, I designated and asked the Governor-General to designate Mazankowski as the Right Honourable, Donald Mazankowski. He's the only person in Cabinet who held that title and holds it to this day. And that'll tell you the high regard in which I held him for the tremendous contribution that he made not only to Alberta, but to Canada.
He's basically dedicated his whole life to the betterment of Canadians, not just Albertans and not just people from the Vegreville riding, but to all of Canada.
Today, Don reflects on the importance of reaching out to people, young and old, to encourage them to get involved, to make a commitment to their community, to their province, and to their nation.
It's an opportunity for ordinary people to do extraordinary things.
We need people who are prepared to look at the big picture and to say, I'm going to dedicate some part of my life, it doesn't have to be forever and ever, but some part of my life to public service, to giving back, to making it work. You can't just sit at home and complain about why it doesn't work. You know, find a way to participate and get involved so that at least you've had your voice heard and at least you're trying to make a difference.
Everyone has feelings, everyone wants their life to be a little bit better. You know, everyone wants their situation and their circumstances to be a little better. You know, everyone has opinions, even though they may think they don't, you know, but they do, and I feel that they should get involved so that they could translate those opinions and those feelings into some form of action that could bring about results for them, you know, bring about change in their lives.
Be a participant in important decisions that will affect your life. You may choose to opt out, and that, I suppose, is also a choice in a democratic system. But those decisions are being made in your absence, and so it's far better to at least have had a voice and had your input, because those decisions will eventually find you.
Don really did show how a person, not a star, not a big star, not a big name in public life, could enter public life, have a real impact, and make a name for himself on the strength of his abilities and his commitment to the public good.
Democracies are awkward, difficult, ungainly things, and they're only driven and motivated by people. And so the people who get involved make the difference.
Every life is insignificant until you yourself make it great, and Maz did that.
You don't have to win every time. You have to try every time.
Who'd have ever thought that I would have, when I was going to a one-room school south of Viking, that I would have had the privilege of being a member of Parliament, being a Minister of the Crown, being the Deputy Prime Minister. No one would have ever believed that it could have been possible.
Don Mazankowski, an example of how one person from a small prairie town in Alberta stood up and got involved and was able to help build a nation and make a difference.